Now that you know about variables, strings, and numbers, we're going to talk about the reason why we would be storing information in variables. Obviously, the reason that we would do that is because we want to do something with that information. If we've stored a username in a variable, then we'll want to check to see if the username is valid. And we do the checking using something called conditional logic. Conditional logic is widely used in programming. I'm going to introduce you to conditional logic and also show you some of the operators that you can use in conjunction with conditional logic. Conditional logic is all about asking the question, what happens if I do this? What happens if I click a link? When you use conditional logic, you're asking, what happens if I do click this link? You're used to using conditional logic in your everyday life. If I spend money on lunch, will I be able to eat dinner? If I study PHP, will I be able to learn more about web design? Conditional logic can often be identified by the word if. For the most part, you're using conditional logic to test what is inside a variable, and then you can make decisions based on what's inside that variable. So as an example, we might have a variable called username. And if I make that equal to Ben, then the text Ben is going to be stored inside the variable called username. What we would normally do is use some sort of conditional logic to test whether or not the variable username really does contain a name that we want to give access to our site. So if I want to ask something like this, I would be asking, if the username is Ben, then let the username have access to the site. In PHP, when we use the if keyword, we would actually write the statement so it looks like this. We start with the if keyword, we open our parentheses, we're going to then in the parentheses state our condition, so we're going to write if username, and we're going to use equal equal, and then we're going to make it equal to a value that we're testing for. And then I'm going to open up some curly braces, and inside the curly braces is going to contain my code that I want to run. So whenever we want to test a variable or a condition, we always start with the keyword if, and then we have that pair of parentheses. That's going to contain the condition, and then we're going to go ahead and put our curly braces, and the statements that we want to run go inside the curly braces. If we don't have it set up in this way, our code is not going to run correctly. So you can think of it as if, and in the parentheses we're going to test our condition, and then in the curly braces we're going to put the code that we want to run. So in this example, I've created an images folder that has 2 images, and the images folder is just sitting right inside my root directory. I'm going to use the print statement, and I'm going to set up a statement that I want to have happen. So I'll go ahead and I'll print, and we'll have one of these images display. So currently the statement is saying if the username is exactly equal to Ben. Equal equal is a comparison operator that is making sure that the value on the left is exactly the same as the value on the right. If that's true, then it's going to go ahead and print our shark image to the page. So when I save my page and we refresh in the browser, I'm getting an error message, and that's because I'm missing my closing PHP tag. So let's go ahead and add our closing PHP tag. And now when we save and we refresh, you're going to see that the image is going to show up. Now, if I happen to make the value of my username something else, now the image is not going to show up, and that's because the condition is no longer met. Let's make another conditional statement. I'm just going to comment that out, and inside my PHP values, I'm going to go ahead and make a variable called shark image, and I'm going to make this equal to 1, and then I'm going to make another variable called turtle image, and I'm going to make that equal to 0. And then we'll go ahead and we'll set up our conditional statement. So again, I'm going to use if, I'll open the parentheses, and we're going to say if shark image, and this time we're going to also use the equal equal, but I don't need the quotes because I'm testing a numeric value as opposed to a string. And then we'll open up our curly braces, and again, let's just print that the image is going to appear on the page. So the statement is going to be print, and then we're going to print the image tag, and we're going to point to the shark image. If we save our page and we look at this in the browser, you can now see that the shark image is going to appear on the page. So in this case, we're just setting up two variables. We're assigning a value. One has a value of 1, one has a value of 0, and then we're going to say our statements. The double equal signs is going to mean that shark image has a value of, and then whatever is on the right. So what we're basically saying here is if our shark image variable has a value of 1, then execute some code. Now, in addition to using if statements, we can make our code a little bit more robust by using an if-else statement. An if-else statement is very similar to the if statement, except that after the closing curly brace, instead of ending our line of code, we're going to type else, and then we're going to open a second set of curly braces. And I'll just copy my print statement, and we're going to go ahead and have this point to the turtle image. And if this condition is true, the page is going to remain the same. It's still going to show the shark image. But if I change the value of shark image to also be equal to 0 and I refresh, now you can see that the turtle image is going to display. And what's happening here is it's saying if the shark image has a value of 1, then we're going to print the shark page. Else, print the turtle page. So as long as the shark image is not equal to 1, the turtle page is going to display on my page. PHP is seeing this statement as not being true. Because the value of not true has been returned, or the statement is false, PHP is going to ignore this line of code, and it's going to go ahead and execute the code that's within the else part of the statement. Else just simply means when all other options have been exhausted, we're going to run the code between the else curly braces. Also related to the if-else statement is a statement called else if. You're basically taking the exact same statement, but you're going to be adding more parts onto it. So here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set my shark image back to 1. My turtle image is going to be set to 0. We're going to say if the shark image is equal to 1, print the shark image. And then we're going to use else if, and we'll pass on an additional condition. So else if gets its own set of parentheses, and we're going to set up our condition. So we're going to go ahead and say turtle image, and we're going to set that equal to 1. And then finally, I'm going to add my else statement. So if neither of these statements are true, the else statement will run, and we'll just print that no images are detected. So currently, if I refresh the page, we're going to see our shark image. Now, if I change the value of the shark image, let's just flip these and make the shark 0 and the turtle image 1. Now, the statement is going to run. It's going to test this condition. This condition will not be true, so it will move on to the next else if. And in this case, the turtle image is going to be set to 1, so it should display our turtle image. If we refresh, once again, we get the turtle image. Now, if I change both of these values to 0 and we save the page, we should get our paragraph that says no images detected. And that also is running. And that's because neither of these conditions are true. Every part of an else if, and an if-else statement all exist within their own set of curly braces. That's going to be the statement that's going to run if this condition is true. With the exception of the final else statement, which doesn't care about any condition, it's just saying if neither of the previous conditions are true, then this is our fallback. You can add as many else if parts as you like, one for each condition that you want to test. As we go through this course, we'll be using the if statements quite a bit within our coding. It's important that you have a good grasp of how to use them. In the next video, I'll show you some other comparison operators we can use in our project.